身体は年齢に従って老いるものだ。そう信じ込んでいませんか？でも、もしそれが思い込みだったとしたら？これは単なるスピリチュアルな話ではありません。実際にハーバード大学で行われたある心理学実験が、世界中の科学者たちの常識を覆しました。1981年、心理学者エレン・ランガー博士が行ったその実験では、70代後半から80代前半の高齢男性たちが1959年の空間で暮らすよう設定された環境に1週間滞在するだけで驚くべき変化が起きたのです。彼らの視力が回復し、握力が強くなり、姿勢がまっすぐになった。さらに、関節の可動域まで改善し、言語力や記憶力にまで変化が見られた。彼らは若返ったのです。科学はこう言いました。人間の思考が肉体の老化速度に影響すると。でもユングならこう付け加えたでしょう。それは心が身体を支配しているのではなく、無意識が現実そのものを作っているのだと。あなたは毎日どんな言葉を自分に投げかけていますか？もう年だし、体力が落ちたから。昔みたいにはいかないよね。その一言一言があなたの細胞の未来をプログラムしているとしたら？ユング心理学では、自己、セルフは時間を超えた全体性だとされています。つまり、今の自分が未来の肉体を形作っている。あなたの無意識に根付いた、私は老いるものだという信念が、細胞の再生力に蓋をしているのです。ではどうすれば、その無意識のプログラムを書き換えることができるのでしょうか？ユングは、意識が影、シャドウを照らしたとき、人は自由になると言いました。この言葉の通り、私たちがまずすべきことは、自分の老いに対する無意識の思い込みを明るみに出すことです。年齢衰えという図式は、社会の常識であり、親から受け継いだ観念であり、メディアが繰り返し植え付けてきた集合的無意識の影響でもあります。でも、それはあなたの本音ではないかもしれない。あなたの魂はまだ走りたいと願っていませんか？まだ誰かを愛したいと叫んでいませんか？まだ夢を叶えたいと心の奥で火を灯していませんか？そう、身体の声は実は魂の声なのです。そして魂が若さを選んだとき、身体もまたそれに従い始める。では、なぜハーバードの高齢者たちは変わったのか？それは彼らが思い出すことを許されたからです。私は昔、こんな風に歩いていた。こんな服を着て、鏡の前で笑っていた。誰かの隣で夢を語っていた。思考ではなく体験として過去の自己を再構築したとき、彼らの脳と身体は今が1959年だと再認識したのです。ユング心理学ではこういった心の働きを象徴的再体験と呼びます。そしてこれは無意識の力を使って現実を変えるための扉でもあります。次のブロックではこの実験に基づきながら思考によって身体が再生されるメカニズムをユングの原型理論と影の統合の視点からさらに掘り下げていきます。その前に一つ質問です。あなたが今自分の若さに最も欠けていると感じる部分はどこですか？ぜひコメント欄に書いて教えてください。あなたの思考の起点がきっとそこから始まります。あなたの脳は現実と想像の区別がつかない。これは神秘ではなく科学が証明した事実です。脳にある体験をリアルに想像させるだけで、その時と同じホルモンや神経反応が起こる。これは神経科学とユング心理学の交差点にある最も興味深い真実の一つです。ハーバード大学の実験で高齢者が若返った背景にも、この脳の錯覚と象徴的現実が密接に関係しています。彼らは1959年の新聞を読み、当時の音楽を聴き、 流行のポスターやテレビ、会話まで過去の空間を再現された環境で過ごした。つまり、象徴の中に生きたのです。ユング心理学では、象徴、シンボルは無意識と意識をつなぐ橋だとされています。例えば鏡に映った自分の顔を見て、私、老けたな、と感じる瞬間。それも一種の象徴的自己認識です。逆に言えば、象徴が変われば、心の認識も変わり、身体反応までも変わる可能性がある。ユングはこう語りました。人は外側の世界に合わせて生きていると信じているが、本当は内なる世界が現実を作っているのだ。あなたが自分は若くいられるという象徴を受け入れたとき、無意識はそれを現実として処理し始めるのです。ここで一つ例を挙げてみましょう。ある女性がいました。50代半ば、日々疲れやすく、顔色も沈んでいた。けれど、彼女はある時、過去に好きだったピアノを再開したのです。音を奏でるたび、学生時代の記憶がよみがえり、また私にも輝きが戻ってきた、と語るようになりました。周囲も、なんだか若返ったね、と声をかけ始め、肌の張りも戻り、声のトーンも明るくなった。これは単なる気のせいでしょうか？いいえ、彼女は無意識に若かった自分という象徴を再生したのです。ユング心理学の視点では、内的イメージを再構築することは、セルフ、自己との再接続です。このセルフは、私たちの内側にある超越的な中心であり、心と身体のバランスをとる本質的な核。あなたがもう若くない、今更変われないと思っている限り、セルフは沈黙を保ち続けます。でもあなたが一つ、新しい象徴を受け入れるだけで、そこから生理的変化が始まることがあるのです。もう一歩踏み込んで考えてみましょう。あなたが老化だと信じているものの多くは、社会的投影に過ぎません。年齢を重ねたら恋愛しちゃいけない。50代で新しい夢を持つのは子供っぽい。年相応に見えることが大人のマナー。こうした声があなたの無意識を支配しているとしたら、その絵に気づいたとき、あなたのセルフはゆっくりと目を覚まし始めます。次のブロックでは、この社会的影響と個人的無意識の関係に迫りながら、どうすれば私たちは本質的な若さ、内なる輝きを取り戻せるのかを掘り下げます。その前に、あなたに問いかけさせてください。あなたが昔の自分に戻れるとしたら、何をもう一度したいですか？そのしたいという思いこそが、あなたの細胞を動かすスイッチになるかもしれません。コメント欄で、ぜひもう一度やりたいことを教えてください。それは、きっとこの旅の最初の一歩になるはずです。あなたは若さという言葉にどんなイメージを持っていますか？張りのある肌？活力ある身体？恋愛へのときめき？それとももう自分には関係のないものと感じているでしょうか？けれど、ユング心理学ではこう捉えます。若さとは象徴的な内面の状態であると。この言葉を読みながら、あなたの中で何かが静かに動き始めていませんか？それは、あなたの中のセルフが再び語りかけようとしているサインです。ハーバード大学で行われたあの実験。参加者たちは過去の環境に囲まれ、若かった自分を思い出した瞬間、姿勢が伸び、聴力が戻り、指の関節の柔軟性まで改善されたというのです。まるで時間を巻き戻したかのような変化。だがここで重要なのは、彼らが若返った理由が、医療でも薬でもなく、象徴環境にあったということです。ユングはこう言いました。象徴は魂の食べ物であり、魂が飢えるとき、身体もまた病んでいく。象徴を失うと、人は生きる意味を見失い、心と身体が同時に老いていく。逆に言えば、象徴を取り戻したとき、細胞はそれに呼応して再び活性化するのです。ここで、 あなた自身に問いかけてみてください。あなたが私らしいと感じていた瞬間はいつですか？どんな服を着て、どんな声で話していましたか？誰と、どんな場所で、どんな夢を語っていましたか？それは過去の思い出ではなく、今のあなたを再構築するための象徴的素材になります。実は思考が体に与える影響は、現代科学でも証明されています。例えば、プラセボ効果。偽の薬、砂糖の錠剤を治療薬と信じた患者の脳内では実際にエンドルフィンやドーパミンが分泌され、痛みが和らぎ、炎症が静まる現象が観測されています。つまり、信じるという思考が、物理的な変化を起こしているのです。この仕組みをユングは象徴の力として語りました。象徴とは無意識のエネルギーを引き出す鍵。そしてそれは真の若返りだけでなく、身体の回復力さえ呼び起こす可能性がある。ある女性の話をしましょう。40代後半、キャリアも家庭も手に入れたけれど、疲れた自分というレッテルに縛られていた彼女。でも、あるセラピーで、あなたの理想の自分を絵に描いてくださいと言われ、彼女はためらいながらも、こう描きました。真っ赤なドレスを着て、海辺で笑う私。その絵を見た瞬間、彼女は泣きました。これが本当の私だったんだと。それから彼女は赤い口紅を塗り始め、久しぶりに海に出かけ、笑顔を取り戻していったのです。彼女の身体もまた、それに応えるように変化し始めた。これは魔法ではなく、象徴による心理的覚醒。そしてその覚醒が、ホルモン、神経、免疫反応までも刺激していった。そう解釈するのが、ユング心理学の視点です。あなたにとって若さの象徴は何ですか？赤いリップ？風を感じるドライブ？誰にも言えなかった夢？それをもう一度自分の中に取り戻すことはできます。次のブロックでは、映がどのように私たちの老いの感覚を加速させているのか、ユングのコンプレックス理論や内的的の視点から深掘りしていきます。その前にコメント欄で教えてください。あなたが再び輝けるとしたら、どんな姿で生きたいですか？その言葉が誰かの細胞を動かすかもしれません。私たちは老化を時間の経過と思い込んでいます。しかしユング心理学の視点では、老いとは心のどこかに宿った栄の作用でもあるのです。もう若くないから、年齢に見合った生き方をしなきゃ。無理はできない、私はもう。そんな言葉が無意識の中で反復されるたびに、その人の姿勢、表情、声色がまるで命じられたように鈍っていく。これは単なる気のせいではありません。ユングは言いました。影は抑圧された可能性の集積である。そしてその影は無意識の中で自己像を作り、私はこういう人間であるという制限をかけてしまうのです。あなたの中にこんな内なる声はありませんか？今更始めても遅いよ。私にはその資格がない。変わりたいけど何をどうすればいいのか。その声の主こそが A です。そしてそれは若さというエネルギーを遮断する最も強力なブレーキ。ハーバード大学の実験に参加した高齢者たちが、過去の自分を思い出す中で若返ったのは、記憶を再生したからではなく、A のブレーキを外したからではないでしょうか。本当はまだやりたいことがある。まだ間に合うかもしれない。そんな無意識の解放が、身体レベルでの変化として現れた、そう見ることができます。では、どうすれば私たちは影を外せるのでしょうか？ユングは自我と自己の統合を提唱しました。自我は、こうでなければならないと思っている意識の私。自己は、その奥に眠る本来の私。影は、その間に立ち、自我の正しさを守るために本音を隠します。つまり、影を解放するには、まず、 私は自分を狭く定義しすぎていないかと問い直すことが必要です。ある男性の例を挙げましょう。彼は50代で転職や挑戦をもう遅いと諦めていました。けれどある日、本当は何がしたかったと問われ、こう答えたのです。若い頃、絵を描くのが好きだった。でも、そんなの食えないと諦めた。そこで、彼は再び筆を取り始めました。1日30分だけ。けれどそれだけで彼の目は変わり、声に力が戻り、数ヶ月後には人前で笑って話せるようになったのです。彼は言いました。年齢が問題だったんじゃない。否定してきた自分が問題だった。つまり、私たちが老いとして感じているものの中には、実は影に抑圧された本音が眠っているのです。それは体の不調ではなく、心が諦めたことによって生じたエネルギーの枯渇。ユング心理学では、この影の力に気づき、それを見つめ、受け入れることを個性化と呼びます。個性化とは、若返ることでも理想像になることでもない。本来の自分を生き直すことです。そのプロセスの中で、細胞もまた生きていいんだと反応するのです。ここで、あなたに問いかけたい。あなたの中に眠っていた諦めた何かはありますか？コメント欄にぜひそのかすかな声をシェアしてください。他人に見せるためではなく自分自身に向けて。それこそが影を溶かし、再びエネルギーを取り戻す最初の一歩になるのです。ハーバード大学のカウンタークロックワイズ実験で起きた現象にはもう一つ見逃せない要素があります。それは参加者たちがその時代に生きていた自分として振る舞う中で自分らしさを思い出したという事実です。では、なぜその頃のように振る舞うだけで視力や関節、記憶力が回復するのか？ユング心理学ではこれを内的統合として捉えます。私たちは過去のある地点で、こうあるべき自分、もうこれ以上は無理だという自分、という固定されたアイデンティティを作り出します。そしてその枠からはみ出すことを危険だと無意識に判断してしまう。その結果、本来のエネルギーを抑え込んだまま日々を過ごしてしまうのです。例えば、あなたの心の奥底に、もっと自由に動きたい、もう一度挑戦してみたい、という声があったとします。でも、表面の自分、ペルソナは、それは年齢的に無理、世間が許さないと押し殺す。その葛藤が心と身体の間に断絶を生み、老化を早めるのです。ユングは、人は自己と一致することで、真のエネルギーを取り戻すと語りました。この自己とは、過去の自分でもなく、理想の自分でもない、今ここにある本当の自分です。では、どうすればその自己と再びつながれるのでしょうか？鍵は象徴と振る舞いにあります。ハーバードの実験で参加者が若返ったのは、若い頃のポスターや音楽など、象徴的な刺激を浴びながら、当時の自分のように振る舞ったから。それは、まさにユングが語る象徴の力の実証でもあります。象徴には、無意識に埋もれた記憶や感情を浮上させる力があり、それに触れた瞬間、私たちの内面がもう一度つながるのです。ここで一つの問いをあなたに投げかけたい。あなたが最も自分らしかった瞬間はいつですか？初めて一人旅をしたとき、好きなことに夢中だったあの夏、誰かと笑い合って心が満たされた夜、その瞬間の記憶を今一度思い出してみてください。もしかしたら当時聴いていた音楽や服装、匂いを思い出すだけで、身体がすっと軽くなるのを感じるかもしれません。なぜならその記憶は、あなたの中の自由なエネルギーとつながっているからです。私たちは日々、社会的な役割や常識の中で、自分を切り離し忘れていきます。でもその忘れられた部分こそが、 本当の若さの源泉なのです。思い出してください。若さとは肌の張りでも年齢でもない。私は私でいていいという心の感覚。それが戻ったとき、身体もまた命のリズムを取り戻し始めるのです。次のブロックでは、ユング心理学の象徴の理論と、それがどのように実際の若返りへとつながるのかを、さらに掘り下げていきます。あなたが今までに聞いたアンチエイジングとは、もしかしたら食事や運動、化粧品やサプリメントといった外側の対処法だったかもしれません。しかし、ユングが語った若さとは、外側の形ではなく、内なる光の再転化に他なりません。ハーバード大学の実験では、参加者たちは、その時代を生きているように行動することで、身体的な機能が若返ったという驚きの結果を得ました。でも、それはただ懐かしむというノスタルジーではなく、自分自身を再び受け入れたことが根本の変化をもたらしたのです。ユング心理学における再統合とは、失われた自己の一部影や子供の自分、夢見ていた姿を再び迎え入れること。あなたが過去に置き去りにした思い、誰にも言えずにしまった夢、諦めた情熱、それらを見つめ直し、心の中で手を取り合うことこそが、時間に支配されない存在へと変わる第一歩なのです。例えば、自分の内面でこんな会話を想像してみてください。私はもう若くないし、今更夢なんて。そんな諦めの声に対して、もう一人のあなたがこう言います。でも、私はまだ何かを望んでいる。まだ、心が動くものがある。その瞬間、あなたの中で眠っていた生命のエネルギーが目を覚まします。ユングはこうも言いました。人は、内なる旅を始めた瞬間から生まれ変わる。つまり、若さとは時間を巻き戻すことではなく、今この瞬間に心が生きているかどうかなのです。実際、ある研究では、ポジティブな自己イメージを持つ高齢者は、平均で 7.5 年も長生きするという報告もあります。それは単なる思い込みではなく、心の在り方が身体の細胞一つ一つに影響していることの証拠です。今、あなたに問いかけたいのはこれです。あなたは何歳の自分にもう一度会いたいですか？可能性に満ちていたあの頃、心が震えるような出会いがあったあの時、何かを夢中で追いかけていた時代、その記憶の中にある自分こそが、あなたの本来のエネルギーを持った存在です。そして、それは決して過去に閉じ込められたままではない。今この瞬間に再び取り戻すことができる。ただ一つの許可があれば。それは、私は今からでも自分を生きていい。あなたの若さは誰かが与えてくれるものではありません。それは、あなたが自分を思い出すことで自然に戻ってくるもの。その瞬間、肌の艶も目の輝きも声の強さも静かによみがえり始めます。さあ、今日この映像を見てくれたあなたにお願いがあります。コメント欄にもう一度出会いたい自分の姿を書いてください。ハーブ。その思いを書くことがあなたの心を動かし、身体のスイッチを入れる始まりになります。そして、もしこの物語があなたの心に再転化をもたらしたなら、どうかいいねとチャンネル登録で、これからも一緒にあなた自身の旅を続けましょう。あなたの魂がまた輝きますように。
Good morning. We are extremely pleased that you are here. It is good to come together for the purpose of co-creating. Do you agree? Yes. You are knowing what you are wanting? More or less? Your desire brings pleasure to you? When desire feels good, that means there's no resistance within you. But if your desire does not feel good to you, then that means you have some contradictory thought or vibration, some beliefs going on that contradict your desire. Do you understand the feeling of a fresh, new desire? When you were little, they all felt like that. Because as you came forth into your physical body, you knew who you are. You didn't feel unworthy. You didn't feel incapable. And when you think back, that's really something. You couldn't walk, you had no teeth. You had no way of verbal communication. You were handicapped in a very powerful way in comparison with that which you are now, and yet you knew your value. You felt worthy. You expected things to go well for you. And your desires in those early days felt like we want them to begin to feel again. It was a fresh feeling, a feeling of enthusiasm. A new idea was exciting. The feeling of not understanding something was life-giving. The feeling of wanting more understanding, the feeling of interest beginning to percolate within you, the feeling of expanded ideas, the feeling of not understanding and then coming to understanding, the glee and jubilance that you felt when you were now able to do something that yesterday you couldn't do. As understanding began to unfold within you, that fresh, thrilling feeling of life pouring through you, that's who you feel as non-physical energy. That's who you are. That's what your inner being feels like. That's what we feel like when we flow through you. But as time goes by, as you find things that you identify as your object of desire, and you think about them, but then you notice that you don't have them, and you listen to others who have wanted them and who have not achieved them, without even knowing you're doing it, certainly without meaning to, you develop habits of thought that contradict your own desires. You gather up bushels of beliefs that hinder you. You gather up some that are of great value too. But most of our physical friends still are not understanding the difference in the way the belief that you believe that matches your desire feels, and the belief that you believe that doesn't match your desire feels. In other words, most do not realize that you have the capability of sorting that out, that you can modulate the feeling by selectively sifting through and choosing the thought, and you can consciously create your vibrational mix. You can adjust thought by thought with far greater ease than most understand. You can achieve a vibrational frequency and emit it deliberately, and therefore consciously affect your point of attraction. You are a vibrational being. You are flesh, blood, and bone. Yes, you are, but you are a vibrational being. You are a radio transmitter and receiver. And the frequencies that flow through you equal your relationship with your source. The feelings that flow through you equal or indicate the combination of vibrations that you are offering. They show you the mixture of your desires and your beliefs. We've called this gathering the science of deliberate creation because we want you to be deliberate about the thoughts that you think. But then we have recently begun calling it the art of allowing because we want you to be aware of your vibrational frequencies, and we want you to consciously mold them into good feeling sensations, because that is the way you put yourself into the vibrational stance that aligns you with your source and with your desires. If you want more money, but you are keenly aware that you do not have enough money, and when you have lunch with your friends, you talk about not having enough money, and when the bill comes, you complain about how much they are charging you, and over lunch, you talk about how it's always been hard, and you remember how hard money came to your family, and you talk about how difficult it is for them to get by now, and you criticize your employer for not paying you more, and you're irritated with the government who is twiddling with Social Security, and you are worried about your parents, all through that commentary, you are beating the drum and activating a vibration within yourself that contradicts your very own desire for more money. Law of attraction is answering your vibration. But most are not offering a vibration deliberately. Most are offering a vibration in response to what they are observing, which is good for those who are observing good things, but not good for those who aren't observing good things. When you look at something that makes you feel bad as you look at it, that negative feeling that you feel is your indicator that you are focused on something that is causing an activation of a vibration within you that is hindering your point of attraction. It is keeping you from something that you want. And no matter how justified you are in it, no matter how wrong they are, no matter how inappropriate their actions were, and no matter how many people agree with you, your negative emotion means that you are hindering your point of attraction. Sometimes our friends will say, Abraham, your approach is so Pollyanna because I live in the real world. And I have to deal with the rent, and I have to deal with the terrorists, and I have to deal with whatever is happening. And it's hard for me to observe these things that I do not want without having an emotional response to them. And we say, we understand that. We know that when you look at something not wanted, that it doesn't feel good. And we want to say to you, it shouldn't feel good. It shouldn't feel good for you to include in your vibration something that doesn't match your desire. That's the point of the guidance system. That's like the gas tank on your automobile. When the indicator reads empty, just because that annoys you, you do not ignore it. You don't put a happy sticker over it and say, I feel better now. You want to know. The indicator matters to you. And your emotions are indicators of immense importance to you because they let you know your vibrational content. So, as you begin to recognize that you are a vibrational emitter and that law of attraction is responding to the vibrational signal that you are emitting, then doesn't it become simple when you think about it conceptually that if I offer a vibration that feels good, what's going to come back in response to it will feel good too? We know that makes sense, but we also see that many of you are tripped up on how can there be things around that I see that make me feel bad? Shouldn't I join others to try to control those conditions? Well, good luck on that one. You can't even get everyone to agree on what the condition should be. And even if you can get some to agree, there will be others who do not. So then you say, and this is the thing that trips you up most of all, you say, there is factual evidence of the truth of that which I'm giving my attention to. And we say, so what? And you say, so, it's true. It's important. It's documented. We have statistics. It's in our history books. And we say, anything that anyone manifested, including you, is only the response to your vibrational frequency. So when you say something is true, therefore it has credence, therefore I should give it my attention because it is true, what you are really saying is, I see this thing that in some cases I clearly do not want, but because someone else who clearly did not want it focused on it and attracted it into their experience, I should now do the same thing. I should add to the truth of their misery by adding my misery to their truth. And we say, we don't really get the reasoning behind that because we understand the palette that you have to choose from. We understand the smorgasbord of creation that is available to you. And we know that whatever you turn your attention to and achieve vibrational harmony with, law of attraction will bring to you. That is what deliberate creating is. It's about understanding that the way you feel is your indicator of your point of attraction. And the better you feel, the better your point of attraction is. The worse you feel, the worse your point of attraction is. You just cannot get around that. You cannot feel bad and attract good things. And you cannot feel good and attract bad things. So how do these ideas get so switched around to the point that humans, many of them, believe that if it feels good, it's virtuous. If it feels good, it is of value, but if it feels too good, there's probably something screwy with it. Because one should not be allowed to feel that good. You wait for the other shoe to drop, and in that vibrational attitude, it usually does. And then you say, see, I told you it was coming, and we say, so you are a prophet. It is not hard to predict what's coming when you understand vibration. It's not hard to predict what's coming when you understand the way you feel. We want so much for you to come back around to knowing that if it feels good, it is. Now, sometimes people who really want to play the devil's advocate, and we mean that in every sense of the word, even though the devil is a fictional character made up by insecure humans, who want to control other insecure humans. There's a lot of power in fear, isn't there? There shouldn't be, because really what fear is powerless. We'll talk about that if you want to later, but getting back to the devil. So many, as they are looking into physical experience, see people living things that they know that those people do not want to live. And so their conclusion is they would not do that to themselves, so something outside of them must be doing it. You get so confused about this point, especially if something is happening to you, that you look for all kinds of reasons to explain why it is happening. Some even go so far as to explain it by saying that people outside of them have power over them. And then you look for evidence to support that as you see police brutality or as you see uprisings. Some even go so far as to say it is something from non-physical that is damning them or cursing them. If you understood source, as we do, you would never fashion such fiction, because there is only well-being that flows from that which is your source. Source never wields vengeance or offers punishment, for Source understands you are valuable, you are worthy, you are blessed. Source understands that you never get it done, and you cannot get it wrong, and that even when you stand in a place that currently feels wrong, that ultimately you will return to what feels right, and that you can return now to what feels right with an adjustment of your thought process and an adjustment of your vibration and a changing of your point of attraction and a finally letting in of the well-being that is flowing to you always. Some, in their wanting to explain why things are not going better for themselves or someone else, even go so far as to try to justify it by saying it must have bled through from a past life experience. Even though I know I've kept all the rules in this life, in a past life I must have broken some. And so I'm being punished for something that I cannot do anything about now. How absurd is that? There is no source of evil. There is only a source of goodness. There is no source of the opposite of goodness. There is only well-being. There is only good. There is only value. There is only well-being that flows. You are blessed beings who deserve to live well. So you were source energy before you came into this physical body, and a part of you is in this body. And so this vibrational version of you, which is the dominant version of you, is continually evolving. And so there's this vibrational version of you that is all that you want. Now, since law of attraction is responding to all consciousness, that means law of attraction is responding to that vibrational version of you, and law of attraction is responding to what you've got active in your vibration right now version of you. Because this non-physical
source energy, vortexual version of you is so far and away dominant, just the longevity of it, and the fact that source is all tied into it, that means that as law of attraction responds to this part of you, it creates a really powerful attraction. Cooperative components are being called to it. The question is, are you allowing yourself to be a cooperative component? But this is what downstream is. It's allowing yourself to move in the direction of who you really are. There is contrast every step along the way. The question is, this is a path of least resistance. You're not ever going to hear us say, get on your path of no resistance. It's the path of least resistance. So we're about to say something really profound. Stay with us. There is the reality version, which is the conditional version, and there's the vortex version, which is the unconditional version. So you say, I feel bad because the condition that I've decided is that I'm not smart based upon this feedback, or I'm not attractive based upon this feedback. But we want you to not go into the justification for the emotion. We just want you to say, it feels terrible. It feels miserable. It feels unhappy. It feels defeated. It feels vulnerable. Because if you make it unconditional for a while, if you make it not about the condition, but only about the feeling, now you've got some easy choices. Happy, sad. Aligned, misaligned. Eager, lethargic. Depressed, angry. Better choice. When you make it unconditional, when you make it emotional, you've got choices you can make right now. You can't change the condition because that bugger is not going to be different today. That person is going to be exactly as you have allowed yourselves to define your relationship to be. But when you say, oh, this isn't about a condition. This is about an emotion over which I have more control than I've been allowing myself. And don't feel bad because almost everybody is responding to the condition. Almost no one makes purely unconditional emotional choices. But you could, you can, you'll like it when you get the hang of it. And sometimes it's easier than others. And you know what? Those people who are the most difficult are giving you the greatest gifts because they're giving you an opportunity to show yourself that you can be unconditional. Because the cooperative ones, they don't give you any advantage. They're just nice and you observe them so you feel good, and then you're running around trying to find nice people and trying to control the niceties of others. That never works because, as we said earlier, enlightenment is a fleeting thing and so is niceness. Even the nicest people will let you down. If you're counting on their behavior for the way you feel, then you feel vulnerable, then you feel out of control, then you feel like you're failing, then you feel like you can't do this, then you feel like you're not powerful, then you feel like you're not smart. You can't really quickly affect a change even in the expectation that you have of some people, because some people have just been like that long enough that they have trained you and you have allowed yourself to be trained into an expectation about them. And sometimes that condition, you would just be so much better just to get yourself away from them. We are not ever saying to you that it's your job to just stay there and teach yourself alignment anyway. They're clearly not the path of least resistance. And that's what happens to so many of you. You say, oh, I ought to be able to do this. I should be able to make myself happy in the face of all of this abuse. We say, no, you should not. That's not what the art of allowing is. It's not making myself happy in the face of abuse. It's putting myself in a place where the face of abuse isn't in my face all the time. So there's something that we want you to discover during this conversation, and that is somewhere along your trail, you've picked up the belief, and a lot of people do, that there is advantage in struggle, that there's advantage in sacrifice, that there's advantage in drama, in entertaining drama, in the struggle. And because you believe that there's advantage in the struggle, that's your default place. That's where you go to. We know that intellectually, conceptually, you understand law of attraction, and you understand the upstream, downstream, and you understand the flow. And you have, and a lot of people do, you believe that momentum is where the power is. You believe that you'd rather be doing something than nothing. Esther did it too. Instead of sitting and centering and doing a focus wheel and reminding herself that things always work out for her, instead of taking the time, she flew out of that door like a streak and went down and presented her problem with such forcefulness. In other words, she did it too. Everyone does it every now and again. What is it about that? Because even Esther says, I got to do something rather than nothing. And we say, eh. And why is that? Why is something rather than nothing a default position for so many of you? Because you have evaluated your success and your value through the eyes of others who are trying to get you to be conditional and action-oriented rather than aligned and energy-oriented. So there isn't anything wrong with any of that, except that now your guidance is showing you that all of your life, the habits and things that you thought were the keys to success now are not the path of least resistance, because the things that you were doing when you didn't know about law of attraction often were not in alignment with what you will do after you know. Understanding your point of attraction changes everything. Understanding why you have emotions changes everything. Understanding who you really are and what you really want changes everything. Understanding what downstream is changes everything. But it takes some time to allow it to change. And for sure, you will not make the change while you're choosing to be hard on yourself. You just can't beat up on yourself. We can't break through that. We can't love you enough to get through your screen of being mad at yourself. So you got to just decide to give some of that up. We want you to be able to say, I am where I am, and where I am is all right. And so you've come into alignment. You've activated your guidance. Things that you used to get away with, you can't get away with anymore because you know too much. You can't go back. It's working for you. You're not failing. You're coming into alignment with who you are. We used to say to people almost every seminar in the beginning that the thing that people would most often say to us, Abraham, is it normal for all hell to break loose in my life when I begin doing this work? And the answer is yes. Because the things that you used to do out of determination and habit, the action-oriented things, don't work in this vibrational-based law of attraction, understanding of what your guidance system is telling you world. It's a different orientation, and you've got to make the jump. And so there isn't anything in the world wrong with negative emotion. We want negative emotion to be a good thing. If the stove is hot, we want you to know it. We don't want you to ignore your guidance and touch the hot stove. That's not good for you. And we don't want you to endure long-standing negative emotion. That's not good for you either. But we don't want you to beat up on yourself for having negative emotion, because that's like throwing yourself on the stove. That is exaggerating it, you see. And that's what true drama is. Drama is, here's a good definition for you. Drama is deliberately or indeliberately, purposefully or by default, choosing a vibration that is not in alignment with the way Source sees it, and holding myself there until it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Drama is trying to fix things through action rather than at the early stages through vibrational shifting. Drama is the umbrella result of being insensitive in the early stages to your emotion. You talk more than you listen, and you act more than you feel, and you talk more than you hear, and you don't allow the receptive mode very often. But when you do, you are brilliant. And the reason that when you do, you're brilliant is because you've lived enough contrast that you've really put amazing things in your vortex. So you are called in a very strong way. And when someone is called in a very strong way and they don't go, you take it really hard. And that's why you're dramatic. If you hadn't put plenty in your vortex and you weren't being called in a really strong way, if someone called you on the telephone and said, hello, you don't know me, I'm just calling to tell you I will never call you again, you'd say, all right. But if someone you really care about called and said, you're never going to hear from me again, you would feel drama. So it's sort of kind of like that. You have a basis of understanding. Just keep applying it. The encouragement that we would give to you is lighten up on yourself and try not to be so introspective through the eyes of others, because everybody else has got a distorted point of view of you, and not because they don't care, but just because nobody else has the tools. Nobody else knows who you are coming in. Nobody else knows what your vortex now is. Nobody else knows what your path of least resistance is. Only you know, and only you can feel it, you see. So trust yourself. You can. In other words, that's all part of figuring it out. So you're never off your path. You're never off your path, so you're never lost. Just sometimes you're pointed in the wrong direction on your path, but you're never off your path. And after a while, it gets really clear which is upstream and which is downstream, or which is more resistance and which is less resistance. So this isn't as hard. All of you are going to find this so much easier now that you're understanding about emotions and allowing and path. It's close to impossible. In fact, we are blunt and willing and wanting to say it is impossible to guide yourself effectively by trying to study enough conditions of life that others are presenting to you and making right choices just based upon the conditions that they want you to choose through multiple choice. You cannot possibly do it. If you take your emotions out of the equation, you are lost. Everyone is, but you're not. Because you feel your emotions in a very strong way. But you second guess those emotions because most everybody around you doesn't know about that. And so they want you to be more like them and not be so feeling and not be emotional and not care about how you feel. We don't want to sound unkind to anybody, but almost everybody would rather that you do what they need you to do so that they can feel better than that you do what you do so that you can feel better. It's just sort of a function of the way people are, because most people are living conditionally. And it's a rarefied atmosphere who understands law of attraction and point of attraction. It's a rarefied atmosphere who are masters of creation, you see, and you are among them. So just relax and enjoy the unfolding. This is the thing that will make the difference. Every single thing that you or anyone has ever wanted or ever will want is because you think you will feel better in the having of it. But when you are wanting a condition, an object or a condition, and you haven't done the vibrational work, you just can't get there. And so that's why, after a while, you sort of give up on wanting. It would be like saying, I'm going to go to Atlanta from here. Which direction is Atlanta from here? Atlanta is south. Well, I'm not going south. I'm going north, because the earth is round. And I know that if I persevere, I'm going to do it my way. I'm not going to take the path of least resistance. I'm going to take the path of most resistance. And I'm going to get really tired and give up before I get to Atlanta. And so the reason that that analogy was better than you know is because unless you are understanding that your desire is a vibration that you're translating into an emotion, and that that emotion is good enough for now, you're not going to maintain that enough to then receive the inspiration to take it all the way to the finish line. Yeah. There will not be a more valuable discussion ever, a demonstration of condition over emotion, a demonstration of what is over what can be, a demonstration of powerful desire. Most people never get to that place of powerful desire. They give up on the desire. They don't allow themselves to care that much about something that they can't accomplish. It's a really, 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 really good thing.